Coming to you live from just outside the swamp of the nation's capital. Get ready for invigorating talk, commentary, and debate on the issues affecting your life. Grab your favorite drink. It's Nightcaps with Nate. Now, here's Nate.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Nightcaps with Nate and Natalie. I am Nate.
And I'm Natalie.
And we are here to have an invigorating talk and debate tonight. Tonight's Friday. We have a very special guest later on. We are actually going to interview a real militiaman. Now, I've been trying to do this I've only been doing this for a while, but I've thought about doing this for as long as I've thought about having this show. However, finding militiamen that will actually come on the air and show their face is very rare. So we're in for a lucky treat. But first, we're going to get into some news. Natalie, how you doing today?
I'm doing all right. How are you, Nate?
I'm doing good. It is Friday. A lot of people don't realize, we got full-time jobs. You're a full-time mother, plus at nighttime, there's a lot of work that goes into this show. So it's good that it's Friday, although I do enjoy doing this show. All right, let's get into some news here. So I'm going to keep it kind of lighthearted tonight, but another coronavirus hit cruise ship begs to dock in Florida as passengers from two other COVID-19 stricken vessels are flown out of the state on charter planes. Later on, it said that I heard President Trump speaking tonight in his news brief that he did let two ships dock. Well, that makes this one want to dock in our country too. What's crazy though is that the Coast Guard tells these cruise ships, hey, stay away. You decided to flag as another country vessel so that you can evade our taxes and you can evade our hiring practices, then go to those countries that you're flagged in and have them take care of you. Sounds kind of mean-hearted, but, we're in a worldwide pandemic here. What do you think?
I think that all of that's secondary. I think that at this point, it's just how are we going to keep our soldiers safe? How are we going to keep everybody safe? And right now, staying away from each other is a pretty good idea.
Staying away from is, and part of that is saying, hey, go to that country that you're flagged in, because if your vessel is flagged in that country, they have to have their own protocols to take care of the sick people aboard. Now, I do think that, hey, are there any U.S. citizens there? If there's any U.S. citizens, have them show up to the top deck with a passport, and we will get a helicopter and we'll bring those citizens off. But the rest of the citizens are going to have to go back to where that vessel is flagged, and they can take care of getting their citizens home. Here's my thing. You can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't, in good times, you can't just sit there and enjoy the benefits of offshore tax accounts and cheap immigrant labor that you would not have normally been able to have here in the United States. And then all of a sudden, when a pandemic happens, go to the United States because we have the brightest and the best and all that stuff. You can't have your cake and eat it too. It's kind of like with Joe Biden. He's saying, "Oh, President, quit being silly and open up Obamacare enrollment season." Well, all these people had their chance to enroll in Obamacare. You can't wait till there's a pandemic, then all of a sudden, I need insurance. It doesn't work like that. It'll crash.
You're comparing it to two different things. I agree with you that they shouldn't be over here. I mean, if they wanted to evade our taxes and they want to, fly under the flag, it's the same concept of if a business, sends their money offshore into offshore accounts. If you're going to do that, it's the same. They're in the same mindset. So
right.
That's what we actually agree on. I don't know about all that Obamacare stuff you just said, but yes, the original.
I was going to bring that up, but we're not for time, so I just want to throw that in there. Oh, by the way, to anybody who's wondering, the beer that I'm drinking today is an actual real Hefeweizen from Germany. Great beer. I love it. What are you drinking today?
Well, I have my sangria as usual.
Oh, good. A big tall glass this time.
Oh, yeah. Well, we are debating.
All right, so the next issue, I'm going to bring it up here. President Donald Trump on Friday was facing new pressure from the nation's top infectious disease expert to call for a nationwide stay-at-home order to keep the coronavirus from spreading. In his strongest comments yet, Dr. Anthony Fauci says there should be every state should be locked down, but he didn't muddle into the way of the president because the president is a constitutionalist, I hope. And
how convenient.
Say it again?
Said how convenient.
That he's a constitutionalist now?
Yeah, right now, yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I believe he is. Overall, I believe that Republicans are more towards the Constitution than. In fact, I think liberals are only constitutional on a made-up right, which is the right to an abortion, which is never in the Constitution. That's another issue. But in this case, it is the state governors that have to lock down their states. A federal government can only in time of. If he wants to declare martial law across the entire United States, that's the only way he can go and lock down the entire United States. And I don't think any president. He should do it.
So why doesn't he? Listen, here's the thing: is that he's a constitutionalist. Leave it up to the states. How convenient when it's an election year and the economy looks what it is right now. Looks like crap right now. How convenient? No, it's the states. No. Come on.
Well, I don't think, and I've always been fair. I think, I'm not a hard right person. But I don't think even President Obama would lock down the entire United States. I think he would have the governors and encourage them and say, hey, you are in charge of your people. Lock it down if you feel that it's needed to. Because, let's face it, there's parts of Alaska that probably doesn't need to be locked down. There's parts of that. Now, I can see where you're coming from, too.
I think President Obama would do the right thing for the people. I mean, we're not, even if they lock us down, we're not doing nearly enough. We were just talking. I don't know if we talked about it the last show, but we were discussing at some point about China and what China's doing, or China did. China has overcome coronavirus because no,
they have not. They're lying about their cases. They've lied about their death rate, and they're a totalitarian, authoritarian country. So they're the type. Are we prepared to shoot people if we find them in the streets? Because that's what China would do.
Well. They've kept them inside. They weren't even allowed to go outside to bring their pets outside, but it seems to have worked. I mean, China needs to stay inside, and I'm not saying that we should do that. Listen, I'm not arguing that we should turn into China. I'm just saying that people have to stay inside right now because that's what's gonna make this go away.
I think we got a pretty good ground going.
I was just driving by our country club, and there were people out there golfing.
It's a socially isolated sport.
Not like a couple old men out there. I mean, like groups of them out golfing together. And these are all the population, the older people that we're trying to protect here.
But don't they get to make that choice for themselves? I mean, Democrats are all about euthanasia. What better euthanasia than?
No, because they're going to spread it. Because even if yes, they're the population we're protecting, but they could spread it to other people who are doing the right thing. Somebody who's in the store.
How? If they're socially isolated, how would they?
I'm sorry?
If the people that are doing the right things are socially isolated, then how would they?
I said when they go to the store to go and pick up an essential item, then these people just got done golfing, spread their germs everywhere. I mean, come on. The answer here is unless you absolutely have to be outside for food or some, basic needs, get your butt inside.
Haven't you seen the reports about the mental health crisis that's going on with all these people stuck inside? Let's just imagine you're 80 years old. You know you're going to die in the next year. Would you want to spend the whole last year of your life stuck indoors?
Well, you know what? My best friend in the whole world, Josh Colby, he's a therapist, and he's doing all of his online with people who are, all of his appointments. And so there is mental health, options that are online right now. And, and look, this isn't a perfect situation. I mean, most definitely isn't. But people do need to say it. But here's the other thing. It's the faster we all get inside and actually stick to the program, the faster this can be over and can be just a bad memory.
Well, we're actually going to go over when this is expected to peak on the very next thing I'm going to show you here. Let me see if I can bring it up before I even zoom it back to that screen. Come on. Here we go. Spinning. Boom. Nailed it. All right. So it says here's when the coronavirus will peak in your state. And the University of Washington Institute for Health Metrics and Evaluations has created a model to project future cases. Says it's been very accurate so far. However, it has not been peer reviewed. So they're saying do not use it to guide clinical practice. That's some good advice, I would say. It says a new model. Let me increase this real quick so people can see it. A new model predicts coronavirus deaths will peak in the United States on April 16th. That's the United States as a whole. Though the research is a preprint, meaning it has not yet been peer reviewed. The peer-reviewed process is a vital part of assessing new medical research, identifies weaknesses in its assumptions. So take this with no more than a grain of salt. When a state is chosen on their drop-down menu, the infographic projects how many hospital beds, ICU beds, shortages, etc. So let's just do the states that we know our audience mostly comes from. Let's say Michigan. Michigan, you are expected to peak pretty early, actually, because you guys have been going through it, April 11th. And your peak use of resources will actually happen on April 9th. And you're expected to have approximately a total of 3,169 deaths. Considering you're a state of 7 or 9 million people, it's actually not too bad. Good job with your social distancing and stuff, except for those people Natalie was saying at the golf club. Although I admit I would have been there too.
I'm in Indiana. You were talking about Michigan here.
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. Yes, you're in Indiana. So, Indiana, you're going to peak in April 20th, which your maximum resources will be used up on peak use of resources on April 9th. You'll have about 1,160 deaths. Virginia, where I also have a sizable audience, May 20th. You're one of the late ones. You're going to be one of the late ones. So, Virginia, Maryland, D.C. area, you're looking at between April 28th for Maryland and May 20th for Virginia. And Virginia looked like about 3,152 deaths, whereas Maryland, you're expected to get about 1,766. And then, of course, there's my lonely state of West Virginia. We're going to have 487 deaths total, and we won't peak till May 1st. So, the latest state it says to peak, I think it said was going to be Oregon or Missouri. Missouri at May 21st. May 21st will be the last peak. I think these models do offer us at least a glimmer of hope. I don't know how much stock to put in them, but I do. The only time I really love universities is when they actually do real research, not that social science research, like actual science, because they do have some bright ass minds sitting there with their little calculators and algorithms and stuff, and they're just pounding away, and somehow they figure this crap out.
I agree. Yeah. Well, I think that I don't think this gives us any hope. I think that what it does is it lets us know what to expect.
That's hope, though. I mean, you can see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Like you said, it still needs to be peer reviewed, but if it's accurate, it lets you know this is what we can count on. That's a good thing. Yeah.
I think it is. And what it will do is it'll give people a sense of, hey, okay, I'm going to go ahead and take serious this social distancing so that this will actually happen on that time. And maybe if the government uses it to its messaging and say, hey, look, here's when it's looking like it's going to peak. We may even be able to shorten this by a day or two, maybe even 3 days, if you guys, everybody just come together and let's just bite the bullet, like they say, rip the Band-Aid off, right? Mm-hmm. I like it. Love it.
Yeah.
All right. This is for the cat lovers out there. I hate cats, personally. We do have a black cat in our house.
You hate cats?
I don't know. I'm a dog guy. But my wife has a black cat, Salem, and she is in love with him. So, Whitley will be able to see this. Cats can infect each other with the coronavirus, study finds. Hold on to your cats. The rapidly spreading coronavirus. Huh?
Mine stay in. I also have a black cat, too, named Stella. And I have a gray cat named Angel, and they stay in with us. And it's not because we don't let them out. It's because they're too fat and lazy. They go out there onto the porch and kind of walk, and then they come back in. My cat's never been outside yet. So, the rapidly spreading coronavirus can be transmitted between your feline pets, according to a new Chinese study. For the cats they did not eat. I know that sounded horrible. Researchers at Harbin Veterinary Research Institute found that cats are not only susceptible to contracting, but can pass it on to their furry friends as well. But other animals, such as my favorite dogs, chickens and pigs, are not likely to catch or spread the virus, the study found. And there is no direct evidence that cats would be able to infect people. We found that SARS-CoV-2, which is COVID-19, aka coronavirus, replicates poorly in dogs, pigs, and chickens and ducks, but efficiently in ferrets and cats. We found that the virus transmits in cats via respiratory droplets. So, they can catch them. They can get it and they can transmit it. They didn't go into, is it deadly for them like it is humans and blah, 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 blah. But I thought maybe all the cat owners out there need to understand to watch out for their pets as well. Good thinking, Nate.
I do have a heart sometimes. Very important story coming up. My Lord, if this is not very important, then I don't know what is. Massive toilet paper shipment wiped out in a fiery wreck outside of Dallas.
Oh, such a waste.
I know. If
But
this
you know
load of
what,
toilet
though?
paper got wiped out, a tractor trailer hauling a shipment of the hot coronavirus commodity crashed near Dallas early on Wednesday and caught fire, singeing thousands of rolls. The good news, it was that the toilet paper that goes into restaurants and businesses, that John Wayne toilet paper. So you're not missing much but a sore asshole.
Yeah. You know, it's not really toilet paper we have so much of a shortage of right now anyway. It's the freaking Lysol wipes.
That's always, I still haven't seen toilet paper on the shelves more than maybe one roll.
Yeah. But it's hit or miss, but the Lysol wipes, good luck any day of the week.
Remember, we grew up in a big family. We had 6 kids in our family, and we were kind of poor, and we had that old Scott toilet paper. I think we were the only home in America that had the commercial type 1,000-sheet ply roll toilet paper. So I think we have like our anuses are like just immune to it.
Do you really have to go there? Do you really have to?
Hey, I only had to wipe my anus. I feel sorry for you ladies. You had to wipe both. So
you guys, you have to remember, I'm 10 years younger than you. You guys left the house. Things got a little better.
Oh, so y'all got angel soft.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. Actually, Mom didn't screw around. Like, she had the good stuff by the time we were old.
As soon as we were out, like, all right, the boys are gone. Let's get good toilet paper. Yeah. I swear she probably had her own. Knowing Mom, she probably had her own stockpile of toilet paper anyways.
She actually started buying Kleenex when I was in high school.
No way. We used to have to, go get some toilet paper. So then the stuff that was hard on your ass was also hard on your nose. We'd have like this red spot on there.
Yeah, when I was little, I remember the fake Band-Aids with the toilet paper and Scotch tape. You know?
Yeah.
But Mom was a good mom, you know. I mean, she took care of her.
She taught us how. She taught us how to be thrifty and to take care of things in the absence. If any family was ready for any sort of apocalypse and how to like bandage something with toilet paper and Scotch tape, it was us. Yeah, because all the other rich kids, they'd be like, "Oh no, there's no Snoopy
But you know,
Band-Aids."
Mom had to make do. But you name one time that Mom didn't lay down with you when you were sick when you were little.
That's
name
right.
One time.
That's right. She's good at that. All right. Right now, we're going to bring on our guest. Joining us now is my friend Kevin. I actually did not know he was part of a militia, but he had reached out to me and said, "Hey, would you be interested in interviewing a militia guy?" And I said, "Yeah, set it up." A few days later, he's like, "Yo, man, that's me." And I was like, "What?" I didn't even know he's in a militia. So, Kevin, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
All right, now tell us a little bit about this militia that you're in.
Okay, so yeah, it's LCM, Loudoun County Militia. We started it shortly after the Richmond rally. Guy who reached out and he was kind of trying to get a feel for some people that were in Loudoun County that would be interested in a militia, joining a militia. So I jumped on board and kind of took reins and took control of a lot of the aspects. I wanted to make sure that they had a good foundation built around, the fundamentals of what a militia is. And so here we are. I think we're about 4 months into being so
you're brand new. So. Hold on now. I'll let you in on a second. I can see you want to get in on this, but 1 second. So this is the Richmond rally, not to be confused with the rally where the white supremacists killed the person. What was that? Charlottesville.
That was in Charlottesville, right?
This was the Richmond rally. Just for the record, obviously you're not a racist because your wife is
black. Half black, right?
Half black, right? I was waiting for you to fill in the blank.
Yeah.
Just in case she was half Dominican or something. I didn't want to offend her or something. I don't know. But I do know that she is not exactly as powder white as I am and you are. So,
right.
So this isn't thing. What's your big thing? Is it the Second Amendment, First Amendment, Constitution as a whole? You want to set up your own government? Or you just want to keep this government the way it was founded? What's the goal of the Loudoun County Militia? And do you fall under any umbrella bigger group?
Okay, so as far as the Loudoun County Militia as a whole, we are a constitutionalist militia. We base everything that we do off of the Constitution. Obviously, the Second Amendment is a big one for us because Second Amendment is the part that talks about a well-regulated militia. So yes, we are a constitutionalist.
And how many people are part of your thing? And I'm showing like a slide of like not your militia, but other militias, just so people can see what a lot of the militias look like. But go ahead and tell us.
So right now we're sitting at 100 people total. We're not fully vetted yet. We're working on the vetting process and everything like that. But as of right now, our Facebook page group has 100 members.
All right, so the Constitution says a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. I made sure that, unlike the nasty media, because I want to be fair, I have not just a bunch of old fat white guys, which there are in my picture, of course, old fat white guys. I tend to go to the militias a lot, but I even have a middle-aged fat black guy in there too. So that way, everybody knows that, hey, most militias are not actually racially white nationalist things. Like, the media, everything is white nationalists this, white nationalists that, and Antifa likes white nationalists. So what makes you guys a well-regulated militia?
Well, the part with so as far as the Constitution is concerned, a well-regulated militia, it's 3 steps to it, okay? According to the Virginia Code 44.1, which I have up here, is the composition of the militia. It's the National Guard, it's the Air National Guard, those two, it's one of the two. It's the Virginia Defense Force and the unorganized militia. So we would fall under the unorganized because we're not assigned to like a government-funded militia group.
Okay.
But as far as unorganized, we are organized in the sense that we have a structure built around it. And it also falls under U.S. Code 246, same breakdown as the composition of militia for Virginia.
So at any time they can they can revise or rescind U.S. Code. What'd you say, 246 and
246?
Yeah, and then you're illegal.
I guess technically, but then they would have to get rid of the National Guard. They would have to get rid of the local defense forces as well, because those things fall underneath the militia. They'd have to restructure a lot of things in that case.
I got one more question before I hand it out to my sister. Let's just say it's you got in a war, right? And you know full well that I am a conservative, so I'm at least a sympathizer with the Patriot movement. As long as it's not racial, I hate racism. But I am a Second Amendment believer. I have guns. Let's just say that we had to take up arms against the government. The 3% went out there and did their thing. Who's in charge after that? Then all of a sudden you have anarchy, because it's going to be like in the Middle East where you're going to have one militia fighting another because nobody's going to want to fall under another person's government. Then what?
That is a big concern that comes with being a militia group and having multiple militia groups. That's the reason why you want to find a consistency whenever you're working. So you want to have sister militia groups, which is what we're building with. We're reaching out to other local militia groups. A lot of them are on the junior stages as well. Virginia 113 is a Facebook page that anybody can go to and check out, and it shares information about the different county localities. Our responsibility is to be in contact with the Virginia Defense Force, and then as well the Virginia Defense Force working with the National Guard to ensure the organization of these militias. Now, if it gets to the extreme as what you're talking about, those are things that you kind of take as a case by case and as time goes on and time develops. But right now our focus is focused on the PR stuff, the public relationships, and working in times like right now, how do we operate as a militia to help benefit the community so that there's a plus side to our existence and not just a negative, like behind the scenes shadow that's hiding. You know what I mean?
Yeah. All right. 5 questions to Natalie. Go.
Okay. So how many females are in your militia? You haven't.
So we haven't done a demographic check yet. We haven't got to that point, but we do. I know for certain because I have added a few women in there. Now, according to the code, and this is not according to us, we welcome women into our militia, but according to the code, it's based off of 17-year-olds and older males.
Mm-hmm.
So that's according to U.S. code. But like I said, we welcome women. We welcome all people of all age, all color, all races.
Like
how about all genders?
The military accepts women,
Right,
so,
exactly.
Right. So wasn't really necessary to bring up that it's 17 or older males, right?
Right, and the only reason why I bring that up is because it's if people look at it, people will look at a militia and say, well, there's no women, because if they looked up the code, they would see that. But that's all a basis on the generals of that or the lieutenants of that militia. And our militia, we welcome women.
Some militias, they don't allow women.
I don't know. Can't speak on their behalf.
Okay. So what led you into this? You personally, like getting into your mentality, what made you think I'm going to be in the militia?
Well, being a Marine veteran, the Constitution is something that I've always been big on. Even the forefathers, a lot of the structure of our country is founded on the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. And so being a true blue, true red, white, and blue guy, okay, what do we have going on in this country? What are some things that can be taken care of? And okay, there's a local militia that's being developed right now. How do I get into this to ensure that we maintain a constitutional focus and that we maintain a sense of just control, not control, but like having a sense of foundation. So that's the reason why I took a step into this, and all the paper, like the state of the mission statement, I wrote all that, kind of working with some other members within the group. And so, but my focus was just giving good leadership and giving people that may not have some experience in the military or things of that nature, some leadership and some guidance on how to do this in a
so it kind of makes you feel like you're back in the Marines a little bit, maybe.
Absolutely.
You kind of miss it a little bit, the Marines?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm bringing in a lot of other Marine veterans into the group. And so we have that camaraderie that we're kind of bringing into the militia.
Okay. So
it didn't have to do with the Second Amendment thing of Virginia. I would have thought that because of that. Were you going to ask that now?
Oh, I was just going to say.
With Governor Northam and.
Yeah, in January 2020, your governor declared a state of emergency in Virginia because there were militias who were going to storm the Capitol. And then they said, the governor put out that no weapons. Well, you Second Amenders, can't have that. I mean, who is the government to tell you no weapons at the Capitol? So
yeah, absolutely.
So were you part of that?
I did not go, but the member that created the group, and then what we call the OG, who is our organizational general, he was there as well. They had a section that was actually blocked off that was like no weapons section whenever you get to Richmond. Outside of that was all Second Amendment, had their guns, had their, whatever gear they had.
Yeah, it actually backfired on them. And it backfired on them because they said no weapons on the state ground. So they said, okay. And instead of having the whole rally in a contained area, then the rally spread all around Richmond. So then you had people all over Richmond with AR-15s or, so it was actually kind of backfired on them. But I think a good, healthy fear of the populations, not just at the ballot box. I know this is going to sound extreme, but our country was founded on the government fearing the uprising of its people. Yes or no?
That's what the Second Amendment is there.
Well, but here's the thing, is that when the Second Amendment was written, it was written in the 1700s when we didn't have weapons like what we have now. We didn't have, the technology is amazing now. And they didn't foresee that. And I feel like also in the, in the 1700s, there wasn't anything, what was mental health in the 1700s? We didn't know anything about mental health. We didn't know anything about mental illness, really. They were mad people, and they would send them, to the, lunatics wards, but they didn't.
They were Democrats.
So,
yeah, they weren't. They didn't.
It was just a joke. Sorry, Natalie. Love you.
But I didn't have that. But now we do. So all of this knowledge that we have, all of this technology that we have now, none of that matters. All that matters is something that was written in the 1700s.
No, absolutely. I mean, these things are things that need to be held, that need to take into account. But as far as what you're saying about the 1700s and the weapons that they had at that time, I mean, being realistic, what they had at that time is what we had. So.
Well, not just that. Let me interject here because I did take constitutional law in actual law school. We have a process to get rid of the Second Amendment. It's called a constitutional amendment, and it's very hard on purpose. And they did it on purpose, that the Constitution wouldn't just change willy-nilly like what's happening in Russia, where all of a sudden Vladimir Putin's now changing the Constitution to favor him being in power for life. And that was on purpose. That way they couldn't restrict our religion.
Putin?
Huh?
You think your boy's Putin?
No. I do not. And so I think that if we're going to change the Second Amendment, that's a valid conversation to be had, but it does have to go through the actual very rigorous process of a constitutional amendment. Until then, they do have the right. Now, final question, because we're running on time. What's your rank?
I am the SG, the Strategic General.
Okay. Who decides who's what rank? Because I tell you what, if I was in a small militia, I want to be General Kerr too. But somebody's got to be Private Kerr. So who's Private Kerr?
All right, so we actually have people that have designated that they want, and so our privates are not called privates, we call them patriots. So it's LCM patriots. That's our general population people. They are just patriots. That's all. And so there's people that just want to be in the militia, that want to be part of the functions of everything. We have company guns. We have lieutenant, colonel, regimental level leadership. So I kind of put together the strategics behind the development of the rank structure.
And what's the development? Is everybody a colonel? Because somebody has to be in charge and order somebody to storm a building if it came to it.
Yeah, and so your efforts that you put forth and the type of skill sets that you bring to the table and the strategic discussions that you're able to hold are going to be a deciding factor on where you lie within the militia. For instance, myself and my OG, the organizational general, we went and talked to the local sheriff, Loudoun County East Sheriff campus. We spoke to the captain and the lieutenant colonel, or the lieutenant over there. So obviously we're putting effort forward to help progress the militia in a positive manner. So, that's where we're taking the reins of this. And so we're the generals on the basis of that, on that discussion.
Natalie,
when I was in the Army, I was a private. That is what I wasn't Patriot Kerr. I was Private Kerr.
You were Specialist Kerr at one time.
In the Army, was it?
Yeah.
Well, none of these were enlisted. We're not talking about enlisted members here. We're talking about American patriots.
Well, that's what I watched. And I don't like the media. I am a sympathizer. I'm not a part of the militia, but I am a sympathizer with your cause. I do believe in a strong National Guard. I think that's the point of the National Guard, is that they're made up of fellow neighbors, so that the federal government can be taken on with actual tanks and real guns. Not just, your shotgun or your single shot, 9mm semi-automatic or something. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
The National Guard actually has tanks. The National Guard actually has stuff to take on the federal government, and they're made up of your brothers and sisters, so that if the government, even at the state level, goes too far, they're more hesitant to do that to their neighbors. So that's why I like the National Guard. I'm not sure about the whole militia thing. I am a sympathizer. I do like the 3% idea. That's why I have a sticker on my truck. But, the one thing I found, the two things that scare me is everybody makes up their own rank in the militia. And I saw a big documentary, which is pretty fair, given its vice. And they actually showed, people like, oh, well, I'm not listening to you. And then they went and started their own militia. Well, now you got competing militias, so they might fight together to overthrow an unjust government, but then we're going to have civil war all over the place. That's my biggest fear.
Yeah, that's a generally good, that's a good reason or a good fear to have, but at the same time, it's something that internally, as a militia, and I will take just that little bit of insight from your thoughts to consideration with other militias of how do we build a foundation that is consistent, and how do we build a rank structure that's consistent throughout the militias? Because if it's a county militia, then how do you structure that? Is it different than what you do for somebody that's making a stateside militia? I believe so, because you're talking about a smaller number of people, and that is something definitely to take into consideration. And that's the beauty of America's freedom right there, is that we are allowed to be a militia. Once again, the Second Amendment says so. And if we were to get rid of the Second Amendment, what do we do then?
Go ahead, Natalie.
So, my question to you is what could you foresee happening in the future that would require your militia to take action? Like, what would happen to get you to mobilize and get going?
A mobilization would be a complete infringement on the rights of American people.
Well,
whatever way that is portrayed, I can't foresee those things, but I will say that if it's a clear infringement on the rights of the American people, no matter if they're left, right, down the center. That doesn't matter to us. All are welcome and all are protected by the Constitution. And so at the end of the day, if a government decided to try to do a complete confiscation of firearms, that is something that is within the realms of the Second Amendment, that you can't infringe on their firearms.
It really
right?
comes down to the Second Amendment. What about like freedom of speech or anything like that?
Sure. Freedom of speech is another big one that we would take a part in as well. If you're going to completely abolish the freedom of speech, that's something that we'll step in and say something about. If they were to try to put people into slavery again, that's something that we step in and say, no, this isn't right.
What about stopping church services because of the coronavirus?
That is a concern that actually a member of ours has. They have a small church and they would be able to congregate within the 10 people. And so that's something that we're kind of like, okay, how do you navigate this channel? At the end of the day, it's for the safety of the community that we are in quarters, or
safety of the community says nobody should have guns.
Safety community will never say that nobody should have guns, because people without guns are just slaves.
Natalie?
What are the regular people like me walking around? I'm not a gun owner, and I'm definitely not a slave either. I just
yeah, you're not. Yeah, because
just a regular person.
Yeah, absolutely. And at the end of the day, it's the safety that there are other people, there are good people that have guns. At the end of the day, that's what really matters, because if you legislate that no guns are still going to exist. Guns aren't going anywhere. They've been put on this earth, and they're going to continue to be put on this earth.
You say that because you belong to a country where they're manufactured as heavily. Guns are manufactured in our country. I don't have the statistics in front of me, but I looked it up a couple of years ago, and we're like the number one country that that manufactures guns. So what if we stopped manufacturing them?
Like England. What about Europe?
Yes, but they would be few and far between. And the fear that I have is them getting into the wrong hands, into mentally ill people's. How do you feel about mental health checkups? A background check before they buy a gun. How do you feel about that?
I think that they have a place, and I think that the system that we have right now. I go to the store and I have to wait close to 24 to 48 hours before I can even pick up the firearm that I'm trying to buy. Does it aggravate me? Does it aggravate me? Yes, it does, because I'm like, all right, I already own guns. I don't have any mental illnesses. But you know what? They're doing their due diligence. But I believe that we should be able to have any firearms that we very well please.
Well, what about in Europe? A lot of liberals are saying in Europe they don't have gun violence like we do because they don't have the guns.
But they have knife violence.
Okay, but still, I mean, the chance of dying from a knife is a lot less than a gun. And I'm a gun owner. I love guns, so I'm just playing devil's advocate here.
Right, absolutely. But at the end of the day, whenever you're talking, you're equating something that is not that often held in somebody from England's hand to what we have abundance of. The amount of guns, the amount of ammunition that we have in our country, if there was a gun problem, we wouldn't exist.
And the correct answer really is, Kevin, from a constitutionalist, is that they also don't have a Second Amendment, and their government could do whatever they want, whereas our government would fear doing whatever it wants.
Right.
So it isn't all, like the liberals will turn it about, they don't have crime over there. Yeah, but they also don't have constitutional safeguards of tyranny either.
But they do have crime, though. There's not a country in this world that doesn't have a gun in it.
Right.
Okay, there might be like
except for maybe Antarctica.
There might be like two, like two in China. Yeah,
and they're probably all the.
I'm not a liberal,
because there's a whole military.
I wouldn't bring up China as your example. I would have brought up like Sweden.
I'm saying no. I am going to bring up Japan. They're next door. In that area, and in Japan has next to it's almost no gun violence at all. Zero, and they have no.
Yeah, because they have a respect for personal life, and they have a respect for elders, and they have a respect for community.
Japanese have a respect for human life, but Americans don't. What are you trying to say?
There's plenty of Americans that have respect for human life, but overall, I lived in Japan for 4.5 years, and I'll tell you right now, whenever somebody will step to the side to let you walk past them, whenever somebody moves to the side on an escalator just because it's courtesy, and in America, people don't care, they'll just tell you to wait. There's a respect for human life in Japan that we could learn from.
Okay, so you think culturally they have more respect than we do, and okay. Well, what about they also had a school knifing where there were, I think it was 21 or 22 children were knifed. It was like a school shooting, but only it was knives. And they went through and they but there were 0 deaths. There were a lot of maimed children in that school, but nobody died. Right. Whereas if somebody came in and they shot 22 of our children, Sandy Hook, they're dead. That's it.
Well, and if every teacher was trained to have a firearm, which I believe would be a strong move on that, all the school shootings would stop. Gun-free zones are the best spots.
Let me help you out. I'm used to taking on my sister. Japan also went through a tyranny where they were part of World War II on the wrong side of the battle just 50 or 60 years ago. So our country didn't. So that's the point of us having firearms. See, liberals will take it back to crime. Crime is a family problem. Crime is a raise your children wrong problem, not a gun problem. Crime is irrelevant in the conversation because the point of the Second Amendment is to make sure that our government does not get too strong and lead us down the wrong path to, say, siding with Hitler in World War II.
Right. We don't have invasions in America because how many gun owners we have.
Yeah, remember that old movie? It's called Red Dawn. They tried to redo it and it sucked. But the original 1980s Red Dawn showed the Soviets.
Yep.
But all right, we are out of time. Everybody, smile. Don't roll eyes. Smile. Respectful debate. I loved it. Thank you for being on. I appreciate you coming on and actually showing your face because, like I said before you got on, there are a lot of militia members who would not come on out of fear of stigmatization. You have an automatic defense that I don't. You have a minority wife, so you're good. They can't call you racist. So maybe that's why you're the perfect spokesman because the media, the left stream media, and the liberals, except for my sister because she's respectful, they will automatically paint anybody that's against them with some sort of a label like a racist, misogynist, and all that stuff. We thank you, Kevin, for coming on. Hey.
Thank you, Kevin.
Can I say one more thing?
Yep, one more.
A society that separates its scholars from its warriors will have its thinkings done by a coward and its fighting done by fools.
Nice.
You call me a fool?
No. I just said let's just bring the minds together. Let's bring the bright minds together.
All right. Thank you for being on.
All right. God bless y'all.
God bless you.
And this brings us to the conclusion of our show. I am Natalie.
And I'm Nate.
Thank you and have a good weekend.